thank you, you guys. Really, for us and for me, is an honor and a pleasure to talk to you and to see many of the friendly faces. And obviously, it's really nice to see and come back because always be a Gator. And also, it's very nice to see, to can share with you, Marcela and I, that we are here. She can help me in some details. This initiative that actually start in UF classes, actually start in the TCD, and that is great to show you how far we have moved on and how big this small initiative that start with conversations with John, with Karen, with many professors in your university. And right now, today, I am trying to give a summary of what we have been working on this big network that is the Network of Women in Conservation of Latin America and the Caribbean. What we are basically is a network for gender equality in conservation in Latin America and the Caribbean. The idea of this network is bring together diverse women, as you can see in the figure, that they're related in the conservation of nature. And obviously sometimes it's not easy, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean. This is one of the talks that we have with Lynn, with Beth, with John, with Karen, when we were students, that sometimes it's really hard to work in conservation in our countries. But in this way, creating this group of passionate women that enhance our work and spirit, and at the same time, try to get an equal and integral conservation. And that is the main initiative, that is the core of this network. The idea of this network, Mujeres en Conservation, en Conservación, is to work specifically in gender equality in the field of nature conservation. But the idea of this network is our diversity. We are defenders, we are students, we are academics, we are scientists. Many of us are working in NGOs. Many of us are working in the public area, also in enterprise. And that is the idea, that with different perspectives, try to work related and try to get information, but also get different experience in territory, studies, policies, strategies, and different levels, local, regional, and global scales. Because during this time, we have found that there is really interesting experiences in different countries that can be used in other areas at other levels, that and in that ways we can create this environment to produce better policies, better strategies, better studies for conservation, biodiversity conservation in our countries. And as you can see in this figure, we are right now more than 900. This figure is updated March 2020, but right now we have more than 200 members of 24 countries in Latin America and Caribbean. And as you can see, most of them are from Argentina, Ecuador, and Peru, but also every day we are increasing the number of members, and is really nice to see how we are growing every day. And as I said before, one of the main main points of and strengths of our network is our diversity. And as you can see here, many of us are in academia and research centers. Others are people from the communities. That is really important to have that perspective. Many are in NGOs, international NGOs, local NGOs, and also there are people that are in private sector and the public sector. And as you can see, we have in this network women for different areas and perspectives. But why create this network? Why is it important to work together in biodiversity? Why only women? When we start to looking for some data, we realize that same as many other areas in science and in policy, there is a gap in the presence of women. And as you can see in this data, in Latin America and the Caribbean, only in the 2019, only 9 female ministries of environment from 33 in general people that are in charge of this area in the government. In the case of Argentina, we have less than 20% of park rangers. And probably you can see in different countries, at least in my country, in Ecuador, the number of park rangers probably is less than 10%. In general, we can see that in Latin America, women in science are around 30%, but if we analyze how many women are working in conservation, not in some areas and in some countries, is less than 30%. Another important data is that, as you can see, only 8% of women have access to land if we compare with men in Guatemala. And probably this data that I can show you right now, that there are specific to every country. If we start looking for this data in all of the countries of Latin America and Caribbean, the data is very similar or even lower. And at the same time, in the last years, we can see that there is a high percent of murders of environmental activists in Latin America, and most of them are women. And as you can see, this data, obviously there is a lot of data that we can show that there is a gender gap, the presence of women in the environmental context. And that is the reason also that our idea that we started in UF in 2015 to start looking for ways to improve this gender gap. And that is one of the reasons why we decided to create this network in Latin America and Caribbean. What we want, obviously, promote and civilize the presence of women in responsibility and leadership roles in conservation in Latin America. Also, another interesting thing that we are going to see in the next slides is to generate a safe, transdisciplinary, diverse, and transforming meeting spaces. We found out through workshops that we are going to see that this point is really important for women in conservation and in general women in science in Latin America and the Caribbean. And also implement and keep constructing an agenda and guide for all of the women that is working in conservation that can be changed, because obviously agenda is some guidelines that we can follow, but obviously they have to be evolved during the time and depending of each one of the scales of areas that we are analyzing. Let me know if you have any question that I don't have a problem to answer, or Marcela that is helping me today. How this network born, as I said before, for me is really happy to be here and tell the story that they start in TCD program in 2015. We start with the idea to create workshops with women participation, and we are going to see.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay.
It was quick.
Yeah. As I said before, I was really happy to share with you this initiative that start here or there, but actually in the TCD 2015, when most of us, we were students of the TCD program, and we were thinking how we can help, especially the students of UF, most of us from Latin America and the Caribbean, and how to overcome these barriers that at that time we start feeling in when we were students. And then we start with these workshops, and finally, as I said before, we decide in the Congress, the International Congress of Protected Areas, to scale up this initiative, generating the agenda that that I am going to show you in this presentation. And here in this slide, you can see the first workshop that started in Gainesville. Later on, we organized in Quito another one. At the same year, we organized another one with the support of the TCD professors, another one in Argentina. And in 2008, we have a small workshop also in Lima. And finally, another one in Lima in 2009. And as you can see, the interesting thing is that everything started in Gainesville, and each one of the next workshops were organized and were led by one of the TCD alumni. And here we have some pictures about the different workshops with the participants. I hope some of you can see familiar faces because, as I said before, the core group of organizers and also the facilitators of the workshops, we are alumni from the TCD program. And here also you can see that in each one of the workshops, we got more and more people involved. In some cases, we opened some of the slots for the workshop, like 30 or 40, to get the goals of the workshop in a good way. But always we got a waiting list. We got the workshops were so successful that sometimes we have to open more spaces because we have a lot of interest in different countries of Latin America to be part of these workshops, because we got good fame among the conservational, the people that are related with conservation and environment, that all of the people want to assist at the workshops that we had been organized. One of the things that we learn in these workshops is that we need to explore more topics related with gender. We realize that obviously we are not expert in gender, and definitely we need more people that are expert in gender, and also link with the conservation and environment that we are working on. Also try to explore different goals and challenges that we have to overcome during our work related with environment, and also all of the fields related with environment conservation and sustainability. During these workshops, also, we try to identify what are the opportunities, but at the same time, what are the challenges that most of us share, and also try to facilitate these collaborations. It was great to see that after to participate in these workshops, there have been a lot of connections, a lot of networking among the participants of each one of these workshops. Um, and here we can find in this figure how these workshops help us to realize that there are some opportunities and challenges at personal level, others at professional level, but also a social level. And in that moment, we realized that many of these opportunities, but at the same time, these challenges are very similar country by country, area by area. We start to looking very similar results in each one of the workshops, that the same opportunities, the same challenges, and that obviously also help us to understand that in Latin America and Caribbean, we share um, many similar cultural stereotypes, uh, how they can see the women, especially related with field work, with conservation, with environment. And that is the reason that many of these challenges also we can see repeatedly and frequently in each one of the workshops. Um, Based on what we have learned in the first workshops, we realized that we have to scale up. We know that in that moment, it was a big responsibility, but also we are not only the UF alumni, we have more people involved that help us to think big. And in that reason, we decide to plan a big workshop, and also a workshop with the main idea to create this agenda, these guidelines for all of the women in conservation in Latin America and Caribbean. And one of the main goals, challenges, and learnings of uh, these first steps that we made is that definitely we need women space for women. The moment that we create this area, these workshops made for women, by women, it was interesting that many of us, we feel really safe to talk about topics that in general we never talk. And that it was really nice, and we found this a place to share our challenges, but also our achievements that sometimes we don't talk about it openly. Also, we realized that these workshops help us to self-know, value ourselves, and also be in balance. That sometimes is really difficult. As you know, we are professionals, we are moms, we are sister, we are a wife, we are uh, many things, and sometimes it's difficult to keep everything in balance. Also that we need professional development, and also that we need help, that each one of us alone, probably we cannot make a change, but if we join together with different perspectives, probably we can start doing something to change these gaps, genders that we can see in conservation and environment in Latin America and Caribbean. And obviously that is related with the last challenge, that is to try to break these stereotypes and empower peers, empowers ourselves. We realize that after each one of these workshops, all of us, we are really empowered, really create our self-esteem increase. We really believe in ourselves, and and that is important. And these spaces are not so common for women in our countries, and also women that work in conservation. And then we start with this big challenge for us to say, okay, now we are going to join together and to create this agenda. Last year, after many work from many people, finally we got this agenda that you can download from our webpage. I can, at the end of the presentation, you are going to see all of the information. This is our agenda that we are really proud of show you guys. Then here is a brief outline of how the agenda was built. We found mainly 4 different topics that are important for us in each one of these previous workshops. We found these topics that are really important: territory, management and agency, planning and public policies, knowledge generation and management. And all of these 3 areas that for us are important are joined together in this new conservation approach, new perspective of conservation. And each one of these concentric circles show the challenges that we found in each one of these workshops. And as you can see, one of the challenges is this enable social, political, and environmental context. Other challenge that we found is training and capacity building, that sometimes is not so common, is not so easy for women, depending at the local or international level. Production, reproduction, and care, that is one of the stereotypes, the cultural stereotypes that we have in our countries. And obviously we cannot forget the violence, security, and validation that if you analyze the numbers in our countries, in Latin America and Caribbean area, the numbers are stunning. Related to violence, gender violence is really, really high. Then, as you can see in the flower, the areas of action, and in the circles are main challenges. All of this information, as I said before, we got for the previous workshops. That is the reason that all of the information for the workshops that we have doing from 2015, we put together to create this agenda for women in conservation in Latin America and Caribbean. Now, to give you an idea how it worked, I am going to show you a small video. I have to say that the video is with English caption, but obviously is not the best caption ever, but at least they give you an idea if you don't have Spanish, what they are saying. Let me share the video. Okay. Hopefully every one of you are watching the video. Cinnamon, you can confirm that everyone is watching the video to start. Okay, great.
Yes.
Tuve la oportunidad de acompañar a este extraordinario grupo de mujeres que se juntaron para co-crear esta declaración que ha nacido hace pocos días y que se está invitando a que otros se sumen.
Nuestras agendas todas tienen una mirada feminista, y el feminismo bueno, el feminismo que busca construir, que busca avanzar, que busca la equidad, la igualdad.
Porque amo la conservación y realmente crear tejido ha sido
Yo lo que espero es que de la convocatoria captarais que hoy estamos aquí por nosotras mismas. Con este grupo que aceptó la invitación, aceptó el conocerse, en menos de un día abrieron el corazón y abrieron la mente para poder co-crear juntas.
Vemos que la unión hace la fuerza y para empezar los cambios hay que empezar por nosotras, ¿verdad?
Pues luego de mujeres en la conservación creo que es algo importante, porque creo que va a contribuir a ponerle rostros a la conservación.
As I said before, this video is a small, is a way that you can see how we work. One important thing that probably I forgot to tell you, this was in 2019 in Lima, when we start working in this thinking in big, thinking into organizing agenda, and it was related with the International Congress of Protected Areas for Latin America and the Caribbean. After these 2 days, that it was a really hard work, and as you saw in the video, definitely was amazing to see how we are definitely really stronger and so creative that in actually 2 days, the really hard work, we got the basis of the agenda. In this agenda, as I said before, we have 4 areas of action. The main one is the new conservation approach, where what we want is embrace diversity, incorporating elements such as empathy, affection, and care. Our idea is that we have to put a face in conservation in Latin America and Caribbean, and we want a face that is a women face, but also a face with taking in account the historical and social context that is really important to be considered, and also the voice and experience of women from different perspectives of conservation, sustainability, and environment. The other main area of work is agency in the territory, and we use this quote that probably is familiar with you: our territory, our body, our spirit, that many indigenous groups use as the message, because we aspire to have sovereignty in our bodies, lands, and our territories. The other main point is management and knowledge generation. We understand that we need to generate data. We need to generate more information in each one of our countries, but also we realize that we have a lot of information in our indigenous groups, in our societies, that also need to take in account. And here we use this quote to say, the one who believes creates, the one who creates does, the one who does transforms herself and the society in which she lives. That is the Mayan proverb. The fourth actually area of this agenda is planning and public policies, because definitely if we want to make a change, we need to include in this perspective the people, the decision makers, the stakeholders. It's really important, and that is the reason that what we want is that also with the knowledge generation and the management of the knowledge also create a generation of women that they have voice and decision makers in the process of the generation of public policies in each one of our countries. As I said before, this agenda, this workshop was in the context of the CAPLAC, that is this Congress of Protected Areas. As a part of the Congress, also we have a specific avenue. We have one presentation of the agenda, and at the same time, we make a statement for this Congress. This declaration, as you can see, has the 4 main points of our agenda. One that is change our look related with conservation. Second, to fight and be secure about our rights. Materialize and work for equity, and also recognize the contribution of women in conservation and sustainability. This declaration has been translated in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. Right now, it has been signed by more than 1,000 people in 31 countries. If you want to be part of this declaration, you can find and see all of the full declaration in our webpage that you can find here. And at that moment in 2009, I think that we got a big step, not only to work, to put all together all of the information of the workshops and to have this agenda, but now we have all of these women that they want to work together. And then we decide to create this network, the network of women in conservation in Latin American and Caribbean. And all of these 2020, we have been working obviously virtually, trying to get these, I don't know how you say in English, gobernanza, but how we manage this network, how to put the guidelines, because obviously one of the main concerns of all of us is that all of these initiatives have a future. It's not only finished with us, but also they start getting in different women's in conservation in Latin America. And then we start working in a proposal on how to make work this network. We start with a small group of facilitators that we have many virtual meetings. We have a big webinar with invitation, open invitation of all of the women that have been in our workshops and also in the Congress, International Congress. And we start to create this model of work in this network. We start with documents, we start creating some encuestas or some questions. We try to put all of the information together, and later on we put all of the questions, all of the comments, and generate this model of governance with all of our women in conservation, and we already published. That is what we are doing so far. Right now the network is organized. The network was created in 2020, and so far we are working, we divide in working groups with the main objective to use this agenda that we already created in 2009 and to put that in practice in each one of our countries. These working groups are basically or based in the agenda, and the projects are related obviously with the agenda. So far we have core management area that we are coordinators of the working groups. And here we have, as you said, the umbrella, the agenda. And we have different working groups, that is the communication, events, coordination with the national groups, fundraising, and governance. And obviously, as you can see, the main areas of work of our agenda. So far, our governance has been approved for most of the women that are participants of our network in July 2020. And here you have, you can see all of the different agreements that we are working. Here also we are working in the conservation agenda that, as I said before, is a process, is not always is an agenda that obviously is going to be changing with the different data that we got, with the different projects, and also with the different realities and perspectives of each one of the countries and the group of women that they are working. And also we are also analyzing and working in the code of conduct of this network. Also during the 2020, we generate a webinars conference related with gender and conservation of nature. And as you said, we have it was a great success. We have more than 3,000 women in general. If we add all of the women that we have from different countries in Latin America, and the people asking for more webinars related with these topics. And as you can see, very different how is working the network, what happened with the women in conservation, biodiversity, gender, public policies and gender, what happened with violence and environment, also environmental networks in gender, ethnobiology and gender, climatic change and gender, different perspective of the main point that is the agenda. Also, we are very active in the social networks. We have been working, we have Facebook, also we have LinkedIn. We are also, you have a YouTube channel, and we use that to send information to all of the people that follow us, as you can see here, an infographic data about why it's important to have women in seminars, webinars, and conferences to reduce the gender gap that we have. And as you see, this has been a wonderful trip for us as alumni. We never expect to find us in the middle of this huge and wonderful group of women. That right now we are more than near to 1,000 women in all of the Latin American and Caribbean. And definitely to say thank you guys, thank you to the TCD professors, because you inspire us to be here and to be part of these women that, as you can see, is bigger and is growing in Latin America. And if you have any questions, I am really happy to answer. Farah is here too, that is part of the network, and also Marcela. We can answer your questions and suggestions. Thank you so much for your time.